morning. Welcome to another episode of The Life Roast. I'm John. This is Big T right here. And today we are going to touch on a topic. You know, one of the things that we do here is we have some uncomfortable conversations. We like to pop out of this like confined little box of perspective and challenge some social norms, challenge some thought patterns, some behaviors, and things like that. And today, we're touching on another one of the big three of those untouchable topics that everybody wants to talk about apparently today, right? Like everybody's always talking about this thing, but we're told we're not supposed to with our friends because we might lose friends over this. We might lose family members over this. But we're going to talk about it anyways because I think we just don't care. So we're going to talk politics today, and man, I'm excited. This is going to be a rough go around because we're both pretty adamant about topics like this, and especially just pushing the buttons a little bit and exploring this in its entirety, not beating around the bush, not taking the soft approach and just going in on all aspects of it and just the craziness behind all of it, right? Between the fanatics, the extremists, the candidates, we're going to dive into all of it. So without further ado, Big T.
Well,
I like it when you start. It's always
near and dear to my heart as well. As you know, we've talked about this in a very lighthearted way over the last few weeks with these podcasts. But I think the part that slays me on politics right now is how polarized our country is with, the two sides and what goes on, and how the media has just blown this thing apart where you have no freaking clue what's right, what's real, what's anything. And I tend to lean more conservative, Republican type things, but it doesn't mean that I'm staunch in there. There's plenty of activities and things that I believe the government's good at and brings purpose. But man, the shit that goes on right now with the Democrat and Republican, I don't know how anyone swings to the left with the nonsense that goes on. And everyone will sit here and say, oh, you must watch Fox all day long. And, oh, that's why you're this and that's why you're that. But just there's too much going on in this country to really sit there and think that the left has control of what's going on. Good old cousin Biden up there and sitting at the top. And, the new president, the new candidate for president, Miss Harris, just amazing that this is where we're at. This is the choices we have. And you could say the same thing for Donald Trump, but I tell you what, I look at the country as this is the biggest corporation in the world. And who would you want to run a corporation? Some politician, campaign freak that promises everything and provides nothing, or someone that knows how to run a company. So you look at Donald and say, I don't give a shit if he's mean or he sends mean tweets or he gives you a nickname. He knows how to run a company and the country. So, our last 4 years suck balls. It's been a media frenzy of nonsense. And, are we going to continue this crap? I don't know. But that's what I think we're going to talk about. We're going to be no holds barred, straight at it today and kind of go over some of the stupidity that's going on with our government on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, I love diving into, like I said at the beginning, the fanaticism of all this. I think I love going through. I don't love this, but it's comical to me when I go through social media and I watch the TV, which I don't do very often. Right, I don't watch a lot of news because I'm just so sick of the left, the right, the lies, the propaganda. I don't know what's going on anymore because everything's so. Like everybody's twisting everything and anything that they can to sway their way. And, but I go through and it's just everybody that's arguing about all these things and there's so much misinformation going around. Everybody you remember when we talked about like people just share things because their friend shared it.
Right.
I feel like that's how politics are going right now, where like nobody can confirm or deny much of anything, but we're still willing to argue tooth and nail over all of it. And people are like, they're losing friends, they're losing family. Like we're at a time where, at least in my lifetime, and it's not quite been that long, but we're more polarized than ever. And yeah, I have a little a grudge against politicians for this reason, right? Like the media mostly, but I think it's going to be a great conversation.
Well,
I got my Hawk Tua shirt on.
Yeah,
I'm ready to go. You guys know where I stand on all this.
Talk about
2024
making a buck off of a funny quote just on some random page.
Spit on that thing.
Yeah, she's killing it. All right, so here's the part that kind of floors me. And I went to the old internet, our famous 100% proof, because it's on the internet, and I just wanted to see what the differences are. At least first page I pulled up, that was kind of my rule. Whatever I pull up, so this could be complete bullshit. Ballotpedia. Again,
sounds legit.
Yeah, just sounds. I mean, 100%. It's the website's sexy. It's got a million pieces of information, but they show Democrats as holding 38% of the vote. Republicans at 30%. These are registered voters. 30% for Republicans, 27.6% for independents, which shocked me.
That was actually kind of...
and then there's a balance of 3.7% of other, meaning whatever other party you're affiliate, Green Party, Tea Party, whatever it may be. I didn't realize any of those were still around, but of course they are. And when you look at that, you think, okay, well, it seems like the majority of the U.S. registers as Democrats, or at least the biggest number. I can't say the majority. Had the biggest number, which I kind of knew that they had a bunch of a good voter base.
Right.
But when you look at the independent, that's the shocking one. If 23, don't get me wrong here, 27%, 27% are independent. Like they're wishy-washy on both sides. So they're still, they go with the policy, I'm sure. They don't just favor Democrat or Republican, just check the box like a lot of people do. And the part that slays me about that is if 27% of the voters are here to look at policy, I went and I looked this morning at the policies. And here's the stupidity of media and what goes on and why these polls are so fucked up. I went to Kamala Harris's website. I went to Donald Trump's website. Kamala Harris's website, her stance on everything and her position on where she wants to take this country and all the parts says absolutely nothing. There's not even a page to click on. There's nothing. Like, what is her stance? I have no idea. And I'm not picking on the Democratic side. I'm just going with flat out, if I was an independent voter, what would I vote on and how would I know? And here we are a few months away from the election and Kamala Harris's page doesn't say shit.
But she hasn't had time.
Bullshit. And then you go to Donald Trump's page and he's got a whole laundry list and in his rhetoric that he always says, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And he gives this whole diatribe of I think it's 13 or 14 different things, which fine, where you stand. But then you click on the button and it gives a full blown 16-page blowout of what he wants to do. And it's Donald Trump's rhetoric of everything he's going to fix. But I think that's the sad part here is if I'm an independent voter, I have one that's giving me this whole avalanche of stuff that he's going to do and one that's giving me nothing. But the media will sit here and praise the shit out of Kamala Harris about the change she's going to make based on what? What do you think they're giving it to her for? And her being the key word, although I don't know if that's what she represents herself as her pronoun, but because she's a female.
And that's oh my God. I can't, the amount of it's stuff that I've seen where people, I firmly believe from what I've seen, people are going to vote for her on that basis alone. She's a female.
Let's put it this way. If I needed brain surgery and there was something ticking in my head way on the inside, I'm not talking surface level stuff, way on the inside, and I needed the best of the best brain surgeons, would I make my decision on their bedside manner, if they were super nice and they were smiling and they were laughy, or would I make it on like this dude knows his shit and he's done thousands of these and he can do it with his eyes closed, or he's just straight to the point, he knows what's going on, he's going to go get it, or she's going to go get it. I shouldn't even sit there and it's about the talent. And I think, well, I would pick the most talented individual. I don't give a flying crap if he's got a penis or a vagina. I want to know that this person, she is the greatest person to be dipping inside my brain. If we looked at politics that way and we looked at the votes that way, who is the best person based on what they're promising, based on their history, based on their background? Okay, check the box. But this identity politics, this is what we've come down to, the greatest country in the history of the world. And we're going to vote for someone based on their gender or their race. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? This is what it's come down to.
It is. It is what it's come down to. And because of the polarization, I talk about this all the time. Like, we are so in our emotions. We're so in our emotions. Like, all the media has to do, all the politician has to do is play. They just got to play that little chord, right? And 38, 40, 50% of people, whatever it ends up being, are just going to sing along to it, because that's what we have been training kids to do for the last decade. Right? It's just sing along to the chord that strikes the emotion that they want to, right? And it's, I'll call it brainwashing, conditioning, whatever it is, but that's what we've been doing the last decade. So when somebody brings up an issue like that, it is like they're just playing on that harp and hoping that everybody is just on the same page with it. And if you vote against Kamala, well, you're a sexist. And shaking your head, but it's true. Right. And if you're voting for Trump, you're a xenophobe and a racist. And so they, like, the media and these politicians with these smear campaigns and stuff, they paint a picture not just of who they are, but who you're not or who you are if you go against them. Right. Right. And it happens on both sides. I'm not saying it doesn't. It's insane to see this over and over again. And like you said, right, one of the things that does it blows my mind, right, when it comes to politics, because so few politicians, in my mind, live up to the public servant side of things, right? And we look at the presidency, and I think you said what I wanted to say is, look, we're America, right? We are supposed to be the greatest country in the world, supposed to be. And I know we can argue that. We can argue about education levels, and we can argue about revenue and economy and all that stuff. And I know we're not top one on a lot of those lists, but we're supposed to be a superpower. We're supposed to be feared, respected. We're supposed to be all these things. We're supposed to be on the top. And like, this is what we got. We got 350 million people. And this is what we have. And we feed into it. And what drives me crazy is that the whole insanity thing, right? Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. And here we are. We're doing the same thing that we did 4 years ago, playing into the emotions, playing into the narrative for people who haven't actually done much of anything except for make sure that we're all feeling included and diverse and together. And it's just such bullshit, right? Like, it's like, when do we, I feel like we've sacrificed so much of this country for
the minority.
For the minority, but for, I don't even know what for. Like, we've just gotten so soft and so gentle, and we've sacrificed all these things simply for, like, the progressiveness. Like, when do we draw the line? Like, I'm all for progressive, right? Like, I'm a progressive person. I like to grow. I like to move forward. I like to do all these things, but I feel like we've sacrificed entirely too much. We've tried to make too big of leaps and bounds in certain areas. And people are so caught up in it because, again, their emotions are tied to it and their identity is tied to it, that they're not seeing the bigger picture. And they're just feeding into the lies. They're feeding into the narrative. They're feeding into all the other garbage. And it's like, if we were the greatest country in the world, I feel like maybe things wouldn't be the way they are right now.
I mean, I still believe we're the greatest country in the world, but I look at what we've also become as a society, and I'll use the word lazy. It's easy to check a box. It's easy to put something out there because everyone else is doing it. We just fall in line with the group. But you have the same assholes at the top that have been there for years. And what have they done? They've done absolutely nothing. I mean, they are this is a machine at the top that does whatever they want, and they're in this club that makes rules that benefit them. And you could feed into that and believe they're helping and they're doing all this and everything else. Take abortion. They're going to make sure abortion is, and it's a huge topic. You think they really give a shit? They just know it gets votes. So every 4 years, it's another big thing about it, and racism and all this shit. Like, Donald Trump's racist, and even to go against Kamala with, she's using race as a part of her campaign. It's like, I don't see it. Maybe because I'm a white dude, and that's where everyone will say, "Oh, you're just a white guy and you're privileged and all the bullshit." But I don't see it. I don't see the craziness that is just portrayed in the media, and then this becomes a part of our political mess. But going back to my point of the laziness, we just check a box. Does anyone actually look up like what these people have done? Like they promise stuff, whether it's a presidential campaign or someone running for Senate or Congress, whatever it may be, or even your local mayor. Like, what the fuck do they do?
You know what I think a big problem there is, right? You remember like the Bill song, right? You had the little
Bill. Yeah, Saturday morning.
Is it whatever it was?
Scholastic America, whatever.
Yeah. You know what? I think most people today, and I could be wrong, I don't know. I haven't been in school in a while, right? But I don't think people understand. I hear them arguing about things that, like, the president promises this, the candidate promises this is this. And I'm like, you realize, like, they only have so much say in that, right? Like, right. They can do things, right? Like, they're like the face of the company, but there's like a bunch of other people that are involved in this whole decision, right? And so when I see a candidate sitting there promising all these things, I'm like, yeah, I think you're kind of just full of it, right? Like, you can't just do that. And even if you do, it might last a little while, but eventually Congress might overturn that, And so I don't think we're educated enough about how the system actually works, right? They're like, no, the president has the say so. They can make all these executive orders. And I'm like, yeah, cool. But I think there's more to it that we don't discuss a lot. And so they get up there, and because we think that, like, the second they promise there's something, they're just like, oh, well, they promised to make sure that all of this is taken care of. Oh, that sounds so good. I'm just going to, that's awesome. I'm not going to think about this logically. I'm not going to think about how long or how much it's going to take to actually get to this point, or whether they can even pull through on their promise.
Right.
Or here's a crazy one. For those who have been in office or are in office, my question is if these are all the things that you can do overnight, what have we been doing the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years that you've been in office? Right. But here's my point, is like, we still feed into it.
Sure.
We know that the government's corrupt to a certain point.
To a certain point. To the bone.
To the bone. We know that most high-level politicians, if not all, I don't know them personally, have a personal agenda. They spend 70% of their time, I think we talked about this, just fundraising.
Right.
Just so they can stay in office. Right. And you can't tell me that somewhere along the way they haven't been corrupted at some level, whether it's to an extreme or just a little bit. They are public servants, right? And we to sit here and say that that's not the case is mind-blowing to me. That people still trust all these people that have literally been doing nothing. Maybe they've been doing something. I would like to know if they've actually been doing something. I feel like we're not known in the know of what's actually going on all the time. But yet we still have, it's like that dogma, right? We just feed into it because it's what we're supposed to do, or it's because, this is how I was raised, or this is what I want, and they're making all these shiny promises to me, and so I'm just going to follow through on it, right? But we don't look at the logical side of it, the rational side of it, the going online and actually looking and doing research. We just, oh, well, she made a campaign on TV about it, and I watched it at the Holiday Inn Express. It must be true.
Yeah. Well, I think going off of what you're saying, it just popped in my head. The Democratic Party has promised minorities that they're there for them. Blacks, Puerto Ricans, whatever group it would be. And they've promised and they've promised and they've promised for my entire lifetime that they're there for you. And when they campaign, that that's always the other guy is against blacks, or he's against Puerto Ricans, or he's against Chinese. It doesn't matter. And I sit there and I think, okay, they suck you in and you vote for them. And what's changed? Like, really, what's freaking changed? How is your life better? Is it, and this is the part that slays me on when they make fun of it. It's like they say the conservative Republican side is trying to take away your funds or trying to put you down or put you back in chains or any stupid thing that comes out there. But what has the Democratic Party done for you besides make a shitload of promises? I mean, your school systems are all fucked up. America as a whole, the school systems are fucked up. When they preach choice on making schools now more competitive and allowing you to choose your school system and go out there rather than it being based on your geographic region, the Republicans are like, let's go, school choice. You pick what you want. But somehow the news spins it that they're going to jack up the education system, so they want you to stick to the local area. Well, why is that? Because the unions are all over that shit, and they understand that, hold on, if we do this, it's going to break up our school systems, but not break them up. We're going to have to break up the union because now teachers are going to be held accountable. I'm not blasting teachers, but if I have a school system that, and there's school systems everywhere where their education level, if you're a seventh grader, your education level on a test is you're in fourth grade. Like, how is a kid 3 or 4 years behind where they're supposed to be age-wise, and that school system's not held accountable? School choice would allow that. But somehow the Democrats are selling to you some bullshit. School choice is bad. That's just one topic. I can go into a million topics with the stupidity. But like, this is how the media sells it and pushes it and does a bunch of stuff where you vote for someone that's blowing smoke up your ass for another 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, whether it's local or federal, and you keep doing it. Republicans the same. They're the same douchebags in office for Republicans that you keep voting them in. And like you said, they're on their own agenda. Are they on the take? I don't know. Maybe some of them are financially on the take, probably more than most. But I think what a joke this whole system is. You continue to vote for the same morons, and they continue to give you the same bullshit.
You touched on something that I think is funny that happened recently, and how they spin all these stories, because that's what they do. They take something, they spin it, whatever fits the narrative. And I know this is a lot of the media, but I feel like they play into this a lot too. The whole tipping thing that just came up recently, right? And I only touch on this for an actual point, but so, for a while, Trump was like, we're going to stop taxing people. If you haven't heard, he wants to stop taxing people who make tips, right? In hospitality, in service industry, all that stuff, right? And when that came out, right, certain media outlets, we know who they are, started slamming him on it, right? They said it was going to cost the taxpayer, what, like $250 million?
$250 million.
$250 million, something like that. And they were talking about how bad it would be for the economy and all this stuff. And then just recently, not too long ago, Kamala came out and said she wants to stop taxing people who make tips in the hospitality and service industry. And now, oh man, she's for the people.
Yeah,
she wants to help.
Savior.
She's going to come in and save us and make sure that everybody's taken care of and everybody has a place and no taxing on the tips. And it's the saving grace for the people in the service industry, right? Such bullshit.
Right.
Like, and that is just a thing on my mind right now that I can point out because it happened, but it's all the time. You know what I think is funny, and I think we talked about this last week, is I don't think a lot of people really understand how similar they are in a lot of ways. And this is what's messed up when it comes to politics, right? We're so polarized that we can't see that. There's a handful of policies that the Democrats and the Republicans are firmly against each other on.
Sure.
Right? Like the top 5, right? And I'm talking like abortion, immigration, right? Like those top things, inclusion and whatnot. But I feel like on the lower levels, I know a lot of conservatives and a lot of liberals who kind of agree on a lot of things.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
And what sucks is that we have these 5 and these 95 on the bottom, we can agree on the 95, but because the top 5 are so controversial and so polarized and divided, like that's what we're focused on. And that's what's dividing us.
Yep.
And it's just crazy to me. And what's funny about that is like, we're so caught up believing whatever it is that our candidate says that we're so unfocused on actually coming together and finding a solution. I know people who are willing to even take those top 5 and have full conversations about them and try to find middle ground. But because they're such polarizing topics, they take that and use it to pit us against each other.
Sure.
And we let that shit happen.
Right.
I think for me, like, again, this is the part where it's like, we're being stupid. We as a society are being stupid and letting them do these things and fighting each other for them, right? All they got to do is say the words. We're the ones at each other's throats about it.
Yep.
And it's just like we are, I don't know, like I'll attack society because we're just becoming really stupid.
Well, I think the stupidity is this, and you know, it's funny. There's a sign that's on the backside of the camera that says you can't fix stupid. The stupid part about this is a magical show. Our federal government are a bunch of magicians, and we could probably say local. There's probably some local groups that are better than most. They're duping us with all of the bullshit, the abortion, the racism, the transgender, da 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 da. But what I think people are stupid about and they don't pay attention is, at the end of the day, we get taxed. We are taxed out the ass. Everything, every freaking move you make, you are taxed. If something comes out and it's new, like, Bitcoin or anything else like that, where they haven't figured out how to tax it, it will be taxed. And the stupidity of where I go with this whole thing is, where does our money go? Like, realistically, if you thought about it, where does our money go? We have no clue. Zero.
I don't think they have a clue sometimes.
Well, I think they do. But I think that this is the crazy part of the system, is that we have a government with $38 trillion in debt. You can't even, it doesn't fit on a normal calculator. So you can't even figure out what that is. If you did the math on it, it's like we each personally have a credit card. Imagine having a credit card that had $1 million limit, and the credit card company said, pay it when you feel like it. I'd run that bitch up all the way up to the thing. I would have shit that I didn't need. And I think this is the stupidity, that you vote for moronic things. And trust me, there are things that we need to vote for, and you need to know where your candidate stands. But when the box checks and they say this is who won, it goes right back to the game. And that game is, they're going to tax the shit out of us, regardless if it's a Republican or a Democrat. And we have no idea where our money goes. This is where I look at government and say the corruption is there, that someone is doing something with the money, whether it's real money that they've taxed us or made up money that they just printed, and we allow it to happen. It just continues. We're $38 trillion in debt.
That number is so, I don't think we've said this before. I don't think we realize how astronomical $38 trillion is.
I'm going to put it on the calculator.
It's a lot of zeros, man.
What is it, 12 zeros?
Is it? 3, 6, 9, 12, yeah.
That's a billion. Oh, Jesus Christmas.
It's a big number, man. Could you imagine having $1 trillion and just like, oops, I misplaced it?
38 billion. I'm just going to run it and say, if I just heard this yesterday, the average home costs $400,000.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Right now, based on inflation and all that. Right. With $38 trillion, you could buy 95 million homes.
How many homes are there in America?
I don't know. That's the amazing
there,
part.
Yeah.
But you just look at the dollars. But again, back to government-wise, why we're taxed and we're taxed and we're taxed, and we have no idea where our money goes. And we're writing checks to other countries. We're bringing illegal aliens, and I heard someone say you can't call them illegal. They're undocumented. Fuck that. They came here illegally. There's a process. but I don't want to get into that. If we're taxed and we're taxed and we're taxed, and then the money's going wherever the hell they want it to go, and we have no idea. This is why I say we're stupid. We're voting for the same dingbats that are doing this. Plain and simple. How do you know where your tax money's going? We don't. You just know every other paycheck or every paycheck, there's a portion that comes out. FICA, SUDA, Social Security, Medicare. Okay, what's left? And we're like, okay, I'll settle for that.
I heard there was a great the approach to this that somebody took once, and they're like, if we went back, imagine getting your check in cash, right, and then having to go down to see the tax collector and handing them over the money that you do. Could you imagine us actually doing that? I think we'd actually start a civil war over that. I don't think we realize, and the big part of that, what you were saying is, for me, the accountability. There's no transparency. We know that certain parts of the government take up X percent, right? Like they have these budgets, like the military takes 20%, whatever it ends up being, 20%. We got, all these other areas that we do 5% in, 10% in, Congress gets this much and all this stuff. And we got all these different programs. But as far as itemized list of how it's spent, good luck.
Yeah.
For you. I don't even know if it's funny coming from a government that if you don't have your shit together come tax time in the most specific way, you might get audited. You might get fined. You might go to jail. You have to guess at all these numbers and figure things out. And you got to hire a professional to do all that stuff. And then here they are just spending all willing. Oh, there's $100,000 there. Oh yeah, we'll just go ahead and grab that and, do all these things. And nobody really knows. We don't. And we're paying for it.
And you find out, and this is the part where I don't know if media is blowing smoke. How many billions of dollars have we given to Ukraine? And there's some budget or some bill, or I don't even know what the hell you want to call it, that they brought in front of the House of Representatives to say, hey, can we get an itemized checklist of where our money's gone, where the money we've given to the Ukraine, so we can understand how the monies are being used? And they voted against it. They voted against it. What? Hold on a second. I'm an investor in your business. I'm going to give you $10 million. And then 2 years in, I come back and I say, hey, can you show me where you use my funds? How much of it's left? Because you're asking for more. Show me how you use the money. And the company comes back and says, nah, we're not going to. And then we have people in the business going, this is why we shouldn't show you. Are you kidding me? I want to see an itemized breakout of where you use these funds. Where did it all go? This is the stupidity of our government. And again, I go back to, why do we continually vote the same douchebags into office?
I don't know.
I mean, if your city is falling apart, literally, if your city is falling apart, again, Republican or Democrat, I don't care. If you wake up and there's crime in your area, if you wake up and there's garbage and the city's not taken care of, and it's a new election for a mayor, and it's the same dumbass that's been there forever, why would you vote for him again? And maybe it's not the election itself. Maybe it's the primary. How is it that you would even let this guy back in?
Because he promised to take care of it.
Right. Again, and
he promised though, history,
man. We get enamored by the bullshit campaigning. And that's the part that slays me. I mean, you have Kamala Harris right now saying she's going to fix the border, and you have Kamala Harris saying she's not going to tax tips, and you have Kamala Harris. She's still in office. She's still in office. Yes, she only has a few months left. But I don't understand why her campaign is saying she's going to fix a bunch of shit when it's shit that's broken right now and she's in office. Why not talk to Crazy Joe and say, hey, let's fix all these things and go out on a win in the last 3 months. Let's shove this thing through.
That's that's crazy, because it is. It's even if we lose, we should at least go out, guns blazing, making sure that we're taking care of the stuff that we say we want to take care of if we get elected. It's just why don't you start now?
And how do you call out things that you're going to fix when they're broken because of you? And people say, oh, they're broken because of Trump and they're this, that, and the other thing. Okay, then you had 4 years to fix them. Why are they not fixed, or at least in process? Show me the systems that are in place right now. And again, I say that for Kamala. How are these douchebags running for office? They've been in office for 12 years, say a mayor or governor, and the place is falling apart. Gavin Newsom, are you freaking kidding me?
Hey.
You Californians, I don't know if anyone listens from California. If you do, love your state. Beautiful, amazing state. But what a shithole in certain areas. And you have a governor that's spending more time focused on political nonsense than he is on actually getting your cities and your state in shape. And yet you keep voting for him on bullshit promises. And the Democrats want to put him on the next ticket, like, because he's presidential material. How are we duped to believing that? Because again, more campaign nonsense. Like, give me the asshole that's going to stand at the front of the company and make shit happen. He's not there to be our friend. He's there to make sure this company runs.
That's an incredible point right there. Like, these people don't know us. They don't give a shit about me as an individual.
No.
Right? For them to try, like, and I get it. I don't want them to. Right? 350 million people. I don't want you worrying about me as an individual. I don't care if you know me or not. Right? What are you doing for the good of the 350 million people? Right? Not me as an individual. Of course, we're all like, how is this going to affect me on an individual level? I totally get it. Right? But I expect the person at the top, again, I'll go back to this. So you were talking about the surgeon. I can trust a narcissist.
Yep.
As fucked up as that sounds, I can trust a narcissist. If I know you're a narcissist, I can trust you to be who you are and get stuff done.
Right.
Right? I would rather trust a narcissist because they have their own best interest at heart, which means their image is at play here. So they're going to do the things that makes them look good. Rather than the person or people who are always beating around the bush, always trying to look good. You never know what their agenda is. They're always hiding behind something. Their smile's fake. I can tell your smile's fake. Right?
Right.
Like, and I'm just watching you through the TV.
Right.
And all these empty promises from over the last 20 years, regardless of who you are, right? I can't trust that. And so we look at that and it's like, how can you? I don't get it. And of course, I could be conditioned to believe that as well. What's funny is I come from a more liberal background and I will slam the shit out of all the stuff that's going on now. And to me, that kind of says something, but here we are. We're going around in circles. We're on the freaking merry-go-round doing the same thing. Again, it's just 4 years later. We're doing the same exact thing that we did 4 years ago.
Right. But again, the entire media push is, it's sleight of hand. Watch this. Mm-hmm. Watch this. Keep watching this. Pay attention to this. While behind the scenes, they're still doing shit. Here's an hilarious part. What's happening with Joe Biden in the last few weeks?
I don't know.
Right. No one knows. Why? The media took attention. Everyone took attention. Now we're on Kamala. So you have a president that is on early onset dementia. Not early. I mean, hell, the dude's 80.
He's
so
there.
He's in that window of that, like he's falling down. He can't have any speeches. He can't do anything. Like, he's non-existent. Like, all of a sudden he's disappeared. The media doesn't need to pay attention anymore. He's still the president of the biggest, most amazing country in the world. And there's nothing.
I don't think he was real to begin with.
Well, I mean, no. We can get into a whole topic about that, but
it's just an illusion.
If I go back to, so that's the part the media spins it. But if you go back to the topics and even from a voting level, let's take the hot ones, abortion. Okay, great. We changed it. And they say Donald Trump changed it. Well, the Supreme Court changed it. And okay, fine. There are more conservative leaning Supreme Court justices. Okay, they made a decision. And that decision said it goes back to the states based on our constitutional rights of these people changed the law and the law is in place. Okay. Roe versus Wade moved it to a federal rule and it lasted for what? 40 years, whatever it may be. I don't know, something like that. Like, because that's what happened. Well, there's the ebb and flow of our government. That's the great part about it. But everyone now freaks out that, oh my God, we're going to get rid of it completely. No, it just moved back to the states. And now the states have the ability to say yay or nay. Okay, that's one topic. Okay, immigration. We are trying to decide if it's illegal or racist or whatever to use a ID when you vote. Are you fucking kidding me? How the hell does anyone stand? You should feel like a complete piece of shit as a race or a creed or anything if someone says that's not fair because they don't normally have ID. What? How the fuck do you think that, let's just say the black people, you don't have IDs. How do you get along? How do you have a license? How do you do anything? You can get nowhere in life right now without an ID. But they say you shouldn't have to. That's not fair. That they wouldn't have it. Bullshit. I bet you I can pull 10 people in here right now off the street. All 10 have IDs.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most kids have IDs now.
Yeah, everyone has IDs.
People are getting their kids IDs.
So it's where I sit there and they say, okay, that's another voter thing where they're like, okay, you got to make sure you do this and you vote for this party, but our Constitution says certain things and we allow for certain things, and yet they spin it. They spin it so that it makes more sense. Like, oh my God, we should add more people to the Supreme Court. Like, it's not fair. Or we should change that it's a lifetime, appointing, whatever the term is. And you think, well, it's been like that for 200 years. Why now do we want to change? Oh, because you're not getting your way? Oh, okay. Well, we'll do fucking something about, make change where your people are excited and they vote you in office because you actually affect change, not promises.
This fair bullshit is getting played out, man. Everything's got to be fair. Everything's got to be the way of the way that I think, the way that it should be, the way that all this stuff, right? And if something goes against me, then it's not fair. It's not fair. It's racist. It's sexist. It's homophobic. It's all these things. It's not fair, right? And so, dude, like you said, the ebb and flow of government. There are things that are in place in the laws that do not benefit me, that go against me.
Yes.
That make things harder for me as an individual. Things that I don't like, things that I don't agree with, things that I think are bullshit. Right? I don't care because I have to follow it. That's it. End of story. Move forward. If it's that serious to me, you know what I'll do? If it becomes that serious, I'll run for freaking office. Right? I will get on my social media campaign and I will blow it out of proportion and I will do something about it. But I'm not going to sit back here and whine about it all the time. I'm just going to obey the law and move on and own my life, right? I have this hard time believing this is the fanaticism and all this stuff to me is we believe that one party or the other is going to destroy the country. Here's what I don't get, right? There are X amount of politicians. There are 350 million people. I talk about this with gun rights and abortion and all this stuff, right? Do you honestly think that a president is going to come in and say, give us all your guns?
No.
Even if they tried, what's going to happen?
Right. It's not possible. It would be anarchy.
It'd be bad.
Yeah.
Right? If the government came in and said, we're going to change the Constitution so I can stay in office for the next 20 years if I want to, what's going to happen?
Not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
Right? Abortion, all these things, right? We sit there and we give the government so much power. And this goes back to the dogma. We feed into it and feed into it and feed into it, where we say they're like the almighty, they're like a god now, right? They control everything, but they don't. We've given them so much power to make all these decisions for us. And we sit here and we fight and argue about it all. They're not going to do the things that half of us think they're going to do. And we still sit here and fight about it and vote on it and all these things. And we're so concerned with all this stuff that is just totally pointless because they're just playing off of our emotions.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
We're going to outlaw guns. Like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I guarantee 100%. You guys can come back to me, right? In 4 years, I swear to God, if the Democrats get elected and they take all your guns and you didn't do shit about it, come back to me and tell me I was wrong. Or the other way around, right? Whatever. If they change the Constitution and Donald Trump gets to stay in presidency for the next 20 years, come back and tell me I was wrong. I promise you won't be able to find me though,
Right.
because things have gotten way worse than I thought they were. But you know, I mean, it's just like we have given so much of the people's power in a country that was for the people, by the people, all that stuff. And we've just given it away to mom and dad, who's always going to come to the rescue and make sure that everything's taken care of. And we feed into the propaganda and the white lies and all this stuff. And it's just, what?
Right. Complete nonsense. I think that's where from a message standpoint, like why is it that we use the media as our tool to gain knowledge on what these candidates represent, what they've done, what they will do? Why is it that you, as an American citizen who has a voting right, not like many countries, doesn't do their own research, doesn't go to these people have big fancy campaign websites and they're, all the promises on here. Well, if you're rerunning, you can look up their old website. There's ways to look up their old website. Let's look to see what they promised. Then look up what they actually did. Everything's public. All the governmental stuff is public. You can find anything. Every vote. If you want to see what all of your senators or congressmen or whatever it may be voted on, you can find it. If you want to look at the campaign speech from 1992 on whoever, and they said this, it's all there. Power of the internet. It's this famous tool here that gives us the ability to look up anything. But we don't. We just walk into the box and we look at a name and we go, oh yeah, Democrat, check, 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 check. Republican, check, 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 check. Independent, well, they may jump sides based on policy or based on what someone professed they're going to do. But who does the real research? It's all media driven. That's why they try and suck us into the nonsense. Mm-hmm. Feed us and then this is why they got to polarize everything to the extreme of, Donald Trump's going to get in office and he's never going to leave. Like you said, he cannot stay in office. It's 2 terms. It's written right in the law. How is he going to stay?
Well, and it's funny because aren't they the ones that are always preaching the Constitution?
Right.
The people that are down your throat about the Constitution are going to let somebody break it?
Right. But that's the hilarious part is as much as they're saying he's going to break it, they're breaking it. And I think, okay, so what? The man's gonna like a 4-year-old who didn't get the candy bar at the supermarket checkout. He's gonna throw a tantrum and he's gonna hold on to the leg of the stand there. Like he leaves, he goes, whether he goes out kicking and screaming or not, and bitching and moaning. He leaves. He's not allowed to stay. How is he gonna stay? Oh, he's gonna get the government, not the government, the army and the military to back him. Like what? Like, let's be real about this, people. Like, they make up such bullshit to suck you in, and then you believe that it's going to happen. He's going to take away, like you said, they're going to take away our guns. It's not going to happen. Like, anyone shows up to my house and says, "Oh, by the way, we need all your guns." I'm like, you're serious right now? You do realize what these things do? Like, do you want to be the cop that shows up or the military that shows up to collect the 450 million guns across the U.S.? I think once one person takes a shot at you, you'll start to realize this ain't happening. I think it's the biggest reason why this country's never been invaded. Like everyone has guns, not 1, not 2, but 10, and ammo and everything else. So they're going to take our guns. They're not. Everything that they throw out to sell you, not going to happen.
Yeah. I totally get it. But it's crazy because we just feed into it over and over and over again.
Yeah. So I guess where I want from people to think about is like, do your research. Like, look at what's going on. If you have a stance and you're stuck on it, like, this abortion one, which drives me bonkers, like, fine, vote for who you believe the candidate is, but do the research. Don't listen to the other side say, oh, they're going to take abortion away. They can't. It has to get voted on. It has to go through Congress. It has to go through the Supreme Court. Like, it just can't happen. And you could say, oh, yeah, can they get this and they can do it. Like, okay. But make your vote and then shut the fuck up.
That's a hot topic right there.
Right.
Abortion. And this is, I'm going to dive into that just for a moment. I know we're running out of time here, but this is one of those things that's crazy. And this is a both sides thing and how we polarize ourselves. Abortion is a great topic, right? And I think because of the way that the politicians spin it to where you're either for it or you're against it. There's no gray area in there. It's either extreme on one end or the other. Right. And you got the Republicans saying that Democrats want you to be able to terminate a pregnancy at 9 months. Right. And Democrats are like, Republicans don't want you to be able to terminate at all. Right. And I think we fail to understand that probably 80% of Republicans would say, hey, I get it. If you're raped or you're going to die and the doctor says we have to abort this baby, they'd probably be okay with that. I don't know. I'm just making up statistics. Right. And on the other side of it, who the hell gets a termination at 9 months? Right? I think people fail. This is what I'm getting at, right? Whether I'm right or wrong here, what people fail to do is actually look up the statistics behind this stuff and do the research. They just let their candidate say some words and they emotionally feed into it so much that they believe whatever it is that is coming out of their mouth, whether it's right or wrong. It doesn't matter. They don't do the research. So I said, do the research and find out what the actual thing is behind it. And talk to other people who are on the other side. I think that's one of the worst things that we do is if I'm a Democrat or Republican, I only talk to Democrats or Republicans.
Right.
Right? I only watch Fox or CNN. That is like the worst fucking thing, the most irresponsible thing that we can do as the people of this country is only look at one side of the issue. Right. And not talk to people about this, not have open conversations, not do the things that we're doing right now and having this conversation. Right. Right? It's bullshit. That we can't sit here and have a conversation, even on opposing sides, without fighting with each other, about bickering, about whining, about all these things, trying to push things down your throat, right? It's irresponsible to be that way, right? And not have an open mind and go into these things with such, and just feed into the maniacal way that we've been doing things, and it's dumb.
It's media. I just flipped over to the Democratic National Convention. It starts today. And there's a video, and the video is literally showing January 6th.
Still, yeah.
Like January 6th from 3.5 years ago. Like that's what they're selling. That's what they're pitching. Like, I'm never going to the DNC. I don't want to. I think that's not my party. I don't lean that way. But this is what they're selling. That this is going to be our new life if Donald Trump gets elected, that there's going to be anarchy again, and they're going to come and they're going to raid and they're going to this, that, and the other thing. And that's where I'm like, again, tell me what you're promising me. I'm not sold on Donald Trump. Doubt I ever vote for a Democrat for president, but give me what your stance is. Give me something that shows me what I have to look forward to. Giving me the past of what the other candidates supposedly did, like, still gives me jack shit on what it is you're saying. I go to your website and I have nothing. I go to the news and you've said nothing. I come to your Democratic National Convention to see what your stance is, and I see January 6th bullshit. Like, again, people, if you're voting, do the research. Look at this stuff. Like, this is ridiculous. The pitch and everything that goes on is our government is here to supposedly support us and take care of us with our tax dollars. If I don't have a clue where my tax dollars are going and they want more of my tax dollars, where's it going? What's it being used for? Stop selling me this bullshit of what we believe the future is going to be, when I can see my current present is you're taxing the shit out of us. And you're using it everywhere but in our pockets, in our best interest as an American citizen. I don't understand it. I don't understand how people keep voting for the same stupid nonsense and putting the same stupid people in office.
I agree. I would bang the table. I don't want to break it. I built this thing. Yeah, man. So what do we do? Besides do the research, like what are we doing? Well, how can we change this? How can we do better for our fellow countrymen?
You know what? That's a great question, and it still goes back to the same message I always say. Like, do you? like first and foremost, do you in your day-to-day activities, like be that person that most would say, wow, stand up dude, does right by others, takes care of his family, is always willing to give a hand to someone. And the more as a society we become those people, I think the more we don't rely on our stupid ass government, the more I can turn off the fodder that's put on this thing or on our computer screens or television screens. Like, focus on your local area on how you can take care of stuff and be a part of it in some capacity. And if you don't want to be a part of the local system, at least take care of your own stuff and be that person within your family. And don't get caught up in the hype of the bullshit that goes on around us.
I love how you mentioned a little bit ago, it's like, I'm not completely sold on Trump. I think for the last 50 minutes, people have been triggered by the fact that we're some mega Trump supporters. And it's kind of funny because I know that's exactly what's going to happen when a lot of people watch this. And for me, I am more leaning one way than the other, but I am never beyond having my mind changed, right? By something that seriously comes along and actually does something to do so. But I'm always going to go back to doing the research, making sure that you're not making an irrational decision based on some bullshit that you've been sold for the last 10 years that hasn't happened. Right? Yeah.
Well, on the Trump thing, listen, I am 100% in his camp.
Oh, yeah.
I look at I've said it. We have the biggest company in the world in the American government, and it needs to be run by someone that knows how to run a business. Do I think he's a flaming douchebag? Yes, I do. And I think he needs to shut his mouth. I think he needs to not be such a dumbass, narcissistic prick when he has these conversations and boasts about how awesome he is and then belittles other people. But again, I would rather have that in public, knowing that behind the scenes, he's kicking ass. As opposed to right now, the other side from a federal level, where you have a cackling moron that's done nothing, Zippo, and still has not had a stance and still does not profess anything but bitching and moaning about Trump, coming out of a 3-4 year term where they've done absolutely nothing. So yeah, I favor Trump 100%. And if you put him up against anyone, I'd vote for him, mainly because it's about kicking ass and making America great again. Although everyone's like, oh, that means you're a racist. No, fuck that. It's not. We are an incredible country.
So crazy.
We make a shitload of great things happen in the world. And lately it's just become this weird, crazy ass place where we focused more on the minority of stupidity in this transgender crap and this political correctness, pronoun crapola, everything but how to be a great American and how to push to create a society that's fantastic. And yeah, I am 100% on this side. I don't get how we've turned into this crazy ass society. I don't see it on the streets anywhere. I don't see the stupidity. I do see some crazy shit on the streets. Trust me, when I travel. But where are we going as a society? And it seems like the media is pushing us to take this completely unbelievably stupid way of doing things, and then professing it's good, because it's not.
No, well, I think we've changed the role of what president is in a lot of people's eyes. Like before it was commander in chief. It was military control, global affairs, right? Like taking care of the country, doing the things that were necessary. And now it's like, we want the president to be our friend. We want the president to do every little thing that they possibly can, when we should be taking care of that shit ourselves.
Sure.
And letting the president do what the president's supposed to do and make sure that everything is protected and good in the world.
Right.
And making sure we're not getting dicked around and losing the greatness that we had. And now it's just like, well, I just want them to be my friend. He's just
right. And that's what it is.
I'm being joking. I'm joking, but it's like, it's true. Like we just, I don't know. We give them all this power, but then we want them to be like connected to us. Not like they're not. They're the freaking president of the United States. They are not one of us.
Right.
We don't want them to be one of us.
No.
We want them to be better.
Well, we can only hope for that. So let's end on this note. It still comes back to you have a vote. That's it. So come November when it's time to vote, vote. Get off your high horse in believing that your candidate is the best. Vote for who you believe is the best. That's
absolutely.
To fight with family members over this and to make a big deal, to lose friendships over it, it's ridiculous. Turn the stupid media off, both sides. The CNNs, the Foxes, whatever. Make your decision. If you're an independent, do the research. But I would tell you, if you're a Republican or a Democrat, do the freaking research. Like, what does your candidate stand for on all sides, from a local to a federal? I mean, do the damn research. Just don't check a box. It's ridiculous that we check boxes. I think there are certain individuals that never should have been in office, but they got hyped up enough to get the damn results of the election in their favor. You know what? Do the research. Be a good person. Do the stuff locally that you need to do. Stand out as a good person. That's all I got.
Absolutely. And if we all had to vote on one thing, we'd all vote to subscribe to our channel.
Click a button.
So make sure you click that button. Don't push the buttons. Click the button and catch us next time. Make sure you leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts, where you stand on this, so we can have future conversations on it. I know an hour seems like a lot of time, but it's not really a lot of time. So, future conversations are always possible because we like that back and forth feedback. So
that's all I got.
That's it.
Peace out, guys.
I'm out of here.